Hey guys, I'm Hellhound, and welcome to the Horror and Metal channel. Thank you for watching my Midnight Spook show. And as I said in my last video, when I talked about Avengers Infinity War, go see it if you haven't already. I mentioned my next video would be a review of the newest addition to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise, Leatherface, which is actually a direct prequel to the original 1974 masterpiece. One of my favorite movies ever made. And appropriately enough, I also just got my Leatherface action figure. So, very happy to have that. Alright, so let's get started. Well, yeah, as I said, this movie takes place before the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre film. And tells the events leading up to it, and it's basically an origin story of how Leatherface and his family came to be, and before I get started, no, it's not as nearly as good as the first two movies, not even close, but I did really like it. I enjoyed it. It was not great. I give it maybe like a 7 out of 10. But I thought it was pretty good. It was definitely wasn't one of the worst for sure. It wasn't one of the best either. But I thought it was way better than Texas Chainsaw 3D, which also likewise took place years and years after the original film. We're back to the original continuity. I hope that starts a new trend. Halloween's doing the same thing. Yes. That movie is just filled with too many continuity errors and timeline inconsistencies, bad acting, bad dialogue. And the remake and its prequel, as far as they're concerned, they pretend the original movie doesn't exist, so I pretend they don't exist. So, sorry. Whether they're good movies or not, I don't care. I didn't want it to be remade. So my favorite movies ever made, it didn't need to be retold. So automatically, I like this movie better than the remakes as well. But of course, it's a hell of a lot better than Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation, which is one of the worst movies ever made, and probably not quite as good as the first 3 movies, though, especially the first 2, which I think are both masterpieces in different ways. But anyway, this is a way better prequel than Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning, because what that movie did was, it didn't follow the original continuity either. It took place before the remake. What that movie did was it just rehashed the remake. It was like the same exact movie as the remake. The first maybe 5 minutes were a prequel or an origin story, then the rest of it was just the same thing that happened in the remake, essentially. It was just with more gore. So this is a way better prequel than that. It actually is an origin story. The whole movie is an origin story. It isn't just a rehash. And a lot of it doesn't feel like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre film. And that's both, I feel like that's both good and bad, because it's good because it feels refreshing. It feels like they did something different. It doesn't feel like any of the other movies in the franchise, it was like a new twist on things, a new spin on things. I like that, but it's bad because sometimes I felt like they just wanted to make their own movie, and they just put Texas Chainsaw Massacre characters in there just for the sake of doing it, just to put the title Leatherface on it. So it was both good and bad. Basically, yeah, ever since being a fan of the original, I wanted to see the original family yet again. I wanted to see Leatherface, Drayton, the hitchhiker, and the grandpa. I've also loved Chop Top as well, but again, this one ignores the first sequel, Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. Just follows the original, and maybe Texas Chainsaw 3D, because it does have the Verna Sawyer character. And this movie finally delivered that. We finally saw the original villains, in addition to Verna Sawyer. I don't know who all those family members were at the beginning of Texas Chainsaw 3D. I guess they were like maybe cousins or something. But they were definitely unneeded and very unnecessary. So this movie doesn't have any of them. It just has the original family from the first movie plus Verna Sawyer. And it kind of bridges the gap. It answers the question, what happened to the second generation? Because we had the grandpa, and then we had the 3 brothers. Yeah, who was their parent? The answer is Verna. Grandpa, then Verna, I guess is his daughter, and then her 3 boys. Drayton, Hitchhiker, or Nubbins, and Leatherface. So that was good. They explained that. I like that. I like that they went about the original. Unfortunately, the Drayton character and the Nubbins, who becomes the hitchhiker once again, aren't in the movie very much. And I don't think Nubbins, hitchhiker, even has any dialogue. But I will say the actor that played him looked a lot like Edwin Neal from the original movie, who played the hitchhiker. He looked a lot like him, but I don't think he had the iconic birthmark, though. And I was kind of hoping maybe like one of the escaping victims is going to like slice him across the face with a knife. and that explains how I get that scar. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think he had the birthmark. But then again, he wasn't in the movie quite enough for my liking anyway, so I didn't notice. Drayton was in it a little more. But from my understanding, the very beginning of this movie takes place when they're all, when Leatherface is just a kid, and they give him a chainsaw, and they want him to kill one of their victims that is kidnapped. It's done so much better than the chainsaw at the beginning. I swear, already it's off to a better start. And all the Nubbins and Leatherface are still kids. Drayton's like older, probably a teenager. And then it jumps forward, I think 10 years later, it's like 1965. The only thing with that is that's about a decade before the original, and Drayton sure aged a lot in those 10 years, I gotta say. But whatever. They kind of retconned it to where Bill Moseley was Drayton Sawyer in Texas Chainsaw 3D instead of Jim Saito, who played him in the first two movies. But anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. Basically, there's a big twist in this movie as to who Leatherface is, and I'm afraid I'm going to spoil it in order to talk about the movie. I can't even spoil it at the end because I can't talk about the whole movie. I already knew who it was going to be because I knew who the actor was playing Leatherface was, and I knew what they were calling him. In Texas Chainsaw 3D, it's revealed that his real name is Jedediah Sawyer. Jed Sawyer, and his last name's Sawyer. That's right, not Hewitt. It's Sawyer. And so... they call him, his nickname is Bubba Sawyer, and of course Leatherface, but Jed Sawyer is his name, and basically at the beginning of the movie, the Sawyer clan kills a young girl, a teenage girl. She's with her boyfriend, Ted Hardesty, who's actually the father of Sally Hardesty. Cool little Easter egg there, for Sally from the first movie. And they kill her, and the sheriff, who is her father, wants revenge on the family, because he knows they did it, so they take away young Jed Sawyer, put him in a mental asylum. And so basically, a bunch of inmates escape. Four of them. There's Ike, Clarice, who are both like total psychos. Bud, who's a big, like kind of fat, really slow-witted. I think he's supposed to be a mentally retarded guy who's really big and kind of hulking. He's really strong. And then Jackson, who's like a young, kind of handsome, kind of rugged teen who isn't really that bad. He's just kind of he doesn't like killing people. He's actually kind of normal. He probably shouldn't be in there. Then they take a nurse, Elizabeth. They take her hostage, all the while Sheriff Hartman, the father of that girl that died at the beginning, is pursuing them. He wants revenge because he knows one of them is in fact Jed Sawyer, who becomes Leatherface. And I'm sorry, I'm going to spoil it. Spoiler alert. It's Jackson. Jackson turns out to be Jed Sawyer. And I already knew that because when I read about the movie, they said his name was going to be Jackson. I was like, what? I thought it was Jed. And as soon as it said his name was Jackson, I knew that was him. So basically, this movie takes an interesting approach because in the other movies, Leatherface was always mentally retarded, just kind of did what his family wanted. Here, he's a handsome young guy who is normal and talks completely normal. He doesn't seem extremely intelligent or anything, but I think what they wanted a huge twist, and I think that's kind of one of the problems with this movie, is they're kind of more focused on having a twist instead of telling a good story and having it connect to the original movie. They just wanted that big twist that Jackson turns out to be Jed and becomes Leatherface, and so... So yeah, there's not a lot of chainsaw action in this. Very, very little. At the very beginning and the very end, pretty much. It shows how he becomes Leatherface. We all knew that was coming. So yeah, mega spoilers. Don't watch the movie. Don't watch this review if you haven't seen the movie. But then again, it's pretty obvious. I think you're going to guess it anyway. But yeah, as I said, that overweight mental patient who doesn't talk much, he's really dim-witted. But I think that they wanted the audience to think he was going to become Leatherface and not Jackson. What happens is Bud, spoiler alert again, and all the other psychotic mental patients are killed, and Jackson's face, he's grazed by a bullet. His face is scarred when Sheriff Hartman shoots him when he's like trying to get away in a car, stolen police car, and hence why he wears a mask. And for some reason, like, the death of his friend Bud, along with his scarred face, makes him have a mental breakdown. Then he becomes... he kind of walks like a hunchback and doesn't talk and becomes Leatherface. It only takes like a few minutes, really. It's kind of weird. It's kind of rushed. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. Leatherface, when he was younger, was some good-looking, normal guy who didn't like killing. They turned into this when I kind of assumed he was always like that instead. But it's a kind of interesting approach. I will give them that. It was a little different. But again, I think they wanted you to think Bud was going to turn into Leatherface and not Jackson. But I knew all along because I already knew what his name was. And plus I kind of figured it out where the plot was going. And all the while Verna Sawyer and her other sons, Drayton and Nubbins, are trying to they heard that Jed escaped, and they're trying to get him back to their family. They're trying to get him back so he can join the family once again. And they're cannibalistic carnage. And the grandpa's in it quite a little bit too. Not as much as I like. The grandpa, Drayton, and Nubbins were not in it enough for my liking because I've been wanting to see them since the original. But this is the first movie since the original. Not counting like archive footage and Texas Chainsaw 3D to have the original family members. Part 2 came close, even though Hitchhiker was already dead and Chop Top was kind of a replacement for him. He was his twin brother. So that was good too. And plus Jim Sider returned as the cook, as Drayton. So, but this movie finally did that. I didn't like the family members in the remake or the prequel, except for Leatherface and Sheriff Hoyt, played by the late Arlie Erby, who died recently. Rest in peace. They were awesome. The rest of the family members were annoying as hell. I like the original family. That's what made me like those movies so much. The original Sawyer clan, not the Hewitts. So yeah, again, in conclusion, this movie does an okay job bridging the gap to the first movie. I love the idea of a prequel. I love the idea of seeing the original family members again, seeing what happened to them before the events of the first movie. I kind of wanted to see how they became psychotic killer cannibals, but I guess they always were. I guess they always were evil and liked to murder people and eat them, so... yeah, this is a lot gorier than the original. All the sequels really up to the gore. Even the remake and its prequel, they all up to the gore. None of them are as engaging and as gripping and compelling as the original masterpiece. But I don't ever expect them to be. But all in all, this is a really good movie. Better than Texas Chainsaw 3D. Not as good as the first three. Again, especially the first two, which I love so much. But it's pretty good. It's worth a watch. Check it out. I kind of wish I had a wider release. Not a lot of people are talking about it, which is a shame, because I thought this was a lot better than Texas Chainsaw 3D. And I thought this was the best film since the first three, probably. So yeah, definitely check it out. Is it just me, or was the Sheriff Hartman character inspired by Wydell from Devil's Rejects? And also the beginning of Texas Chainsaw 3D kind of seemed inspired by that as well. But in turn, that movie and House of Thousand Corpses were inspired by Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So there you go. Also, I heard that in the original script, there was a part where Jed, a.k.a. Jackson, got adopted by another family. Before he was placed in a mental institution, they wanted a girl, so they forced him to wear drag. They forced him to dress in girls' clothing. And that explains why cross-dresses later. I thought that was a really good addition. They should have left that in the movie. I don't even think it's in the deleted scenes. This film has like 7 or 8 deleted scenes and a making-of documentary. It's pretty good special features. And they really should include that in the movie, because it'd been really interesting to have a explanation as to why he does that. I always understood he was just mentally retarded and wanted to gain an identity, so he dressed in different clothing and wore different masks because he wanted to be somebody. But I guess in this movie, you can still kind of gather that, because his face was scarred, his mind was scarred and shattered. His family pushes him to do things he never wanted to do. At the beginning, he was reluctant to kill that person. The grandpa had to do it instead. But yeah, it was great seeing the original family again. It was great seeing a movie that seemed to respect the original. Again, a lot more so than Texas Chainsaw 3D, and certainly more than the prequels. Remake, sorry, this is the prequel. It's the remakes, I meant to say. Yeah, all in all, I'd recommend it. I say you definitely see it. Again, it's not as good as the first two, especially not the first movie. And I do have some problems with it. I don't know how I feel yet about Leatherface being a young, good-looking, normal guy. It's kind of weird, but it was kind of an interesting take, nonetheless. I don't know if I really consider this the definitive, canonical origin story for the Sawyer clan or not, connecting the first movie. Because really, I only consider the first two canonical. I really consider them the true continuity. So, but this is interesting to see. It was an interesting take on the character. It felt a lot different from the other movies. It was kind of refreshing. Sam Strike, who plays young Jedediah, a.k.a. Jackson, who becomes Leatherface and eventually wears a mask made of human skin and wields a chainsaw, did a good job. He was respectful to the character in a lot of ways, especially towards the end when he really became the character. He did a good job kind of emulating Gunnar Hansen and Bill Johnson and the others. But he definitely wanted to do his own take on the character and not repeat what came before. Boy, did he. This was definitely a very interesting way to look at Leatherface. I never thought I'd see Leatherface, being young and good-looking and talking and being normal and not wanting to kill. That was definitely something different. Again, I don't know how I feel about that, but all in all, I'd say definitely see this movie if you haven't already. Sorry if I spoiled it. Again, it's obvious. I think you'll even see it coming. Once you watch the movie, like 10 or 20 minutes in, whatever, you'll know it's coming. So, I think you already know. You'll already know. And again, if you read about the movie, you saw that Sam Strike was playing Jackson, and that was going to be the Leatherface character. So I don't think I really spoiled it for you. If I did, I apologize, but I did warn you. Again, yeah, I'm glad they're keeping the legend alive. I'm glad they went back to the original continuity, even after it was remade. Halloween is also doing that. Now Friday the 13th needs to do it. Go back to the original continuity. I want to see Jason again. I want to see more Friday the 13th movies. Yeah, that needs to take a cue from Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Halloween, going back to the original continuity. All right, guys, we'll check this movie out. I think it's a pretty welcome addition to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre series. Let me know whether you liked it or not in the comments. Long live Leatherface and the Sawyer clan. I love the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies. I reviewed all the other ones. Go check those videos out if you haven't already. See Infinity War. Check out my spoiler-free analysis of that movie, my last video. And thank you for watching the Horror and Metal channel with your host, Hellhound. Alright, guys. I guess that about wraps it up. If I forgot anything, oh well. Leatherface. Alright. I think that about does it. Later, guys.